Amen. All right, I want you to write this down, and it's not going to be on the screen because I just added it to my notes. Write it down. You were made for spiritual maturity. You were made for spiritual maturity. You know, sometimes we kind of like profile people. Well, they're like the church kids, or they're like the ones that are like all about church, and they're like all about that life. And like, I like it and stuff. Like, I like God. Like, I'm, whatever, but I'm just not, like, I'm not really into that. Let me tell you something. Every single human being was made by God's specific and unique design. They got it on the screen. They're so good in the back. You were made for spiritual maturity. So you were made for this. Like when I was a teenager and like a young adult, they would say it this way, like, you were all made with a God-sized hole in your heart, and it sounded kind of cheesy, but the reality is it's actually true. Like there's nothing in this whole world from the top to the bottom and all the way around that will bring fulfillment into your life like God does. You were made to know him. That's not just for the pastor. If you were raised in certain denominations, it was like, I expect the priest or I expect the Pope to be close to God, but I can't really be close to God. My closeness to God is about how good I am, and I'm not very good, and I've got a lot of problems, and so I feel at a distance. No, you were made for spiritual maturity, which means you were made to know God, to be able to hear his voice. Romans chapter 8, verse 14 says, for as many as are led by the Spirit of God, they are the sons and daughters of God. Can you imagine growing up in a home where your parents never showed you their faces? That would be so weird, right? If you imagine your parents walking around with like a covering over their head. You could never see them face to face. That would be so weird, right? But a lot of believers act like that. Like they think God is like keeping himself from them because of their behavior or a lot of different reasons the enemy will use to keep them at a distance. No, God doesn't want to be at a distance from you. Romans 8:11, you can write down the reference. It says the same Spirit that raised Jesus from the dead lives in you. God doesn't just want to be beside you, but his presence is in you. Which means in challenging circumstances, in hard times, when literally you've experienced those like the door slammed in your face moments, he's a comforter. He's a helper. When you've made a big mistake and you feel like your whole world is falling apart, or maybe your parents are going through a divorce, or you've lost a loved one, you've got somebody addicted to drugs, you've got somebody that just was sentenced to a long time in jail, and it's brought devastation and sadness into your family. Listen, he is faithful to be a father to the fatherless, to be a friend to those who seem to be all alone, to comfort you in ways that you could never get comforted any other way. See, the enemy's such a counterfeiter. He presents all of these alternatives like alcohol addiction, drugs, and even falsifies what they are. It's like it's a total downer drug, but you call it getting high. That doesn't even make sense. The high is actually a low. And here's the thing. Maybe it does make you feel great. It's temporary. It's temporary. Relationship with God is enduring. It doesn't fade. It doesn't go away. Maybe it's through relationships. Maybe it's through sex. There's all kinds of counterfeits that the enemy tries to present to you that will help you feel fulfilled, feel good about yourself, or feel like you can make it or like you're valuable. But you were made for spiritual maturity, meaning you were made for maturity in God, in relationship with God. But guys, it's not automatic. You have a part to play. See, you didn't really have a part to play in you actually growing. Do you guys remember, for me, it was like late elementary school, and like my knees started hurting so bad because I was going through a growth spurt. Do y'all remember that? And it's like, I didn't plan that. I didn't put that for you, for sure. I mean, holy wow. Because you were like taller than everybody. And I got some pictures recently. So anyway, they already saw how tall you were. But you didn't plan that. That wasn't like on a calendar, right? You didn't plan your teeth coming in. That happened automatically. Other things that have transpired that freak your parents out, I'm telling you, nothing will make parents cray-cray like puberty. I'm serious. They're like, where can I send the teenagers? Who needs missionary teenagers? Tanzania? Perfect. You can have my kids. Send them back when they're 18, right? It's challenging. It's a challenging time. There's a lot going on. You're feeling a lot of things. You probably have slammed more doors and been more emo since that transition in your life than ever before. It's like, I don't know what happened to my kid. It's just puberty. It's fine. Just hang in there. Just hold on. Right? But it's not like a roller coaster. I can get Pastor Greg to hold on a roller coaster because he can see the end and he can kind of see where he's going. Okay, now we're fixing to go through these loops and it's kind of unknown. It's like into the unknown. Like your parents no, I'm not. I literally had parents want to exchange my dog for their teenagers. And I was like, I love your teenagers. I would do it, but this is weird. No, you can't have my dog while I raise your teenagers. That doesn't work. But I deeply love you. But I'm just saying all those things are automatic. They're automatic, but your spiritual maturity is not automatic. And guys, just coming to church doesn't mean you're growing. That's the whole why behind this series. Just because you're coming to church doesn't mean you're growing. It does mean you have the tools. But guys, it doesn't even really mean that. It means I'm giving you the tools. But you decide if you're taking them. You decide if you're actually taking them, if you're paying attention. And guys, I get it. Some days there's a lot going on and maybe it's challenging to pay attention. That's why we always pray before. That's why we always give you the opportunity to get rid of fear, get rid of care, get rid of worry, because all those things are distracting. But your coming to church is giving you an opportunity to grow. It's giving you the tools to grow. But honestly, your growth happens behind closed doors. And that's the whole series that we're going to unpack this month. I want you to write down this verse, 2 Thessalonians 1:3. And if you guys can in the back, just put that address down because Thessalonians is not a word that everyone wrote down today. It's kind of long. And Paul was basically talking to the church. We are the church. And again, if you're here tonight and you've not made Jesus the Lord of your life, that's where relationship with him starts. You believe in your heart, you confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord. I'm going to give you the chance to do that at the end of service tonight. 2 Thessalonians 1:3. If you guys just put the address up there, because I won't necessarily read it, even though I'm flipping through my Bible like I'm going to. Paul said, your faith grows exceedingly. And that's a big deal, right? There's requirements to graduate from a 7th grade year to an 8th grade year. Right? Well, there's certain things that let people know you're serious about your relationship with God. It should be visible. Everyone turn to your neighbor and say, can you see it? Because it needs to be seen in our life that we are growing. But again, growth doesn't happen at church. Growth happens behind closed doors. I want you to write this statement down. The private moments of your life are the most valuable moments of your life. The private moments of your life are the most valuable moments of your life. Because who you really are is who you are behind closed doors. Not in public, but behind closed doors. So the private moments of your life are the most valuable moments of your life. In Matthew chapter 6, verses 5 through 8, these verses will be on the screen. I'm reading from the Living Bible. These first two passages, I would like for you to probably turn to these if you can and have them highlighted, because these are the theme verses for this entire series that we're going to unpack in the month of March. Matthew 6, 5 through 8 is the first group. Matthew 6, 5 through 8. And Matthew is the first book of the New Testament. So it's kind of in the middle, go right. Matthew chapter 6, verses 5 through 8. Say it after me. The private moments of my life are the most valuable moments of my life. So Matthew 6, verse 5, and now about prayer. When you pray, don't be like the hypocrites who pretend piety by praying publicly on the street corners and in the synagogues where everyone can see them. Truly, that is all the reward they will ever get. But when you pray, go away by yourself. Say that after me, by yourself. All alone. Say all alone. And shut the door behind you. and pray to your Father secretly, and your Father who knows your secrets will reward you. Guys, you have no other relationship that will promise that. How many of us have shared our secrets, or we've done things with other people behind closed doors only to end up betrayed? We shared these intimate moments, whether it was words or other activities that we shared intimately behind closed doors or in the back seat with the doors closed. Guys, if you've ever been witnessing and you walk up to a car that's parked, I advise you, unless the Lord has definitely spoken to you, because we've gotten people saved like this. Just facts. Like, we don't take no for an answer. Okay, but I'm just telling you, and you guys are probably some better soul winners than I am, because if I get to the car and the windows are rolled up and nobody's in the front seats, where are they? They're in the back seat. What are they doing? They're not reading a book together. Okay, they're not having a Bible study. Exactly, Jace. That is the face of the year. Okay, they're not having a Bible study. They're not like eating Taco Bell together. Okay, they're doing other stuff. So when you knock on the window, regardless, guys, I believe it. The righteous are as bold as a lion. Okay, but that's next level. That's next level for me. For other people, it's not. They're like, whatever, everyone needs to go to heaven. And I'm like, can they go to heaven when they're done? Like, we'll just wait over here. Let's just wait over here. Circle back, guys. It's a small town. We can circle back. Okay, let's go to Walgreens. Let's go to Wendy. This really happened. Okay, like a month ago. I'm not making this stuff up. We can circle back and they'll be done. No. And God's going to honor that, because you just knock on the window, they roll it down. I don't know what happened from there. I just know they got saved. I don't know what clothes were on, I'm just saying, you commit yourself behind closed doors when all the time, like, God's the one that actually knows your secrets. Have you ever, maybe told somebody that's close to you? Like, for me, it's my little sister. She's my go-to when it comes to my secrets. Y'all, I can't tell you the number of times I've told her, Faith, I just need to, talk to you for a second. I'm just feeling this. And she's like, that is so stupid. First thing. Do you know what I mean? First thing, that's the dumbest thing. Why would you even think that? And I'm like, thank you. It's why did I do this to myself? Do you know what I mean? And the reality is, what she's saying is true. But if I would have just prayed about it first, the Lord, who knows the secret already, could have actually, guys, what I'm telling you is just coming to church. I've been a youth pastor for a long time, and I've had a lot of teenagers come to church. But the things that they were doing behind closed doors determined if they're still in the will of God today or they're not. And I want you to endure. I want you to be long timers. I don't want you to be short timers. I don't want us to all sit around in 5 years and be like, where's so-and-so? And everyone's like, we can't talk about these things. Do you know what I mean? I want you to be in this, because this is the only path that guarantees your success. You take the athletic path, there's no guarantee for success there. You take the academic path, you take the money path, you take the hustling drug path. Whatever path you take, there is no guaranteed success there. There's only guaranteed success on God's path and on his plan for you. But you have to be intentional about what you're doing behind closed doors. The second verse I want you to turn to, Acts chapter 4, verse 13. So you want to go from Matthew, keep going to your right, and you're going to see a book called Acts. Acts 4, verse 13. Acts 4:13. Tonight, we're just kind of laying some foundation, because I want you to think this week about what you're actually doing when nobody's watching, what you're thinking when nobody's watching, how you're handling those depressing thoughts. How many of you, sometimes you're like, I just don't want to think about it. I'm frustrated, I'm upset, so I'm just going to watch YouTube. And I understand, there's a place for just watching something that's entertaining, not that's inappropriate, but something that's entertaining. But the problem with that is an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours later, you still have that problem. So it didn't fix it. It actually prolonged the answer. And how many times do we like do that day after day after day, and then like a week later, like you just keep getting funkier and funkier and funkier. Like imagine just putting off like taking a shower. Like, oh man, I'm sleepy, I don't want to do it today. And this is kind of hard for us to imagine. But at some season in life, some people, we always bathe regularly. I'm not getting into your personal business. If you don't do that, then I can't speak to that. But I always, I need to do it every day. And sometimes multiple times a day. But I'm telling you, there's this thing that people did. What was it called? I learned about it when I was in Atlanta. It's not No Shave November. It's like Nasty November. Have y'all heard of this? It's like they don't bathe for like a month. It's Nasty November. Or Dirty December. It might be Dirty December. It's like, how are you going to do Jesus' birthday like that, yo? So I'm sitting down and meeting these interns, and I'm like, just introducing myself, and they're like telling me their thing, and it's like they haven't bathed, and I'm just like, oh, cool. Good to meet you guys. Like, please, it's okay. I'll take my own drink. No, don't refill it. Like, don't touch any of my stuff. You haven't bathed for like a long time. So like my wheels are spinning, especially because I'm talking to a girl. And she's like, well, there's some little exceptions. I was like, oh, there better be some exceptions. But we're not washing our hair. We're not bathing for an entire month. Guys, that's funky. It's not a cool thing, but guys, what's worse is when people do that spiritually. And all of a sudden you've got these bad attitudes. You're like falling for lies of the enemy. You're insecure. You're cutting. You're in these relationships that are totally compromised. You've got all these weird ideas about life and what you're going to do. It doesn't take much to get funky. Right? It doesn't take much as it pertains to, how you physically smell, how much more your spiritual life. So this has to be a daily thing. Turn to your neighbor, say daily thing. Acts 4:13, now when they saw, which is like all the people who weren't in the church, when all the people who weren't in the church saw the boldness of Peter and John, and they perceived that they were uneducated and untrained men. See, guys, that's the example for you. Write down this verse. 1 Timothy 4:12 says, don't let them look down on you because you are young. Guys, it doesn't matter how old you are. You can change the world right now. 1 Timothy 4:12 says, don't let them look down on you because you are young, but be an example. You can be an example right now. And this may be brand new to you. Well, you're never going to get better at it until you expose yourself to it. So we're just giving you a chance tonight. I want you to think about what's going on behind closed doors. So they looked at Peter and John and they were like, they're not with the popular crowd. They've not been to school, but they perceived what? They had been with Jesus. When you've been with Jesus, you can tell. You can tell. None of that mattered. Their education didn't matter. Their talent didn't matter. People on the outside knew these people have been with Jesus. There's a supernatural something about their life. There's a supernatural joy about their life that's unexplainable. There's a supernatural strength and confidence. They're so bold. Like they don't care what people think, and not in a way that's like disrespectful, but just like confident. Like there's something different about them. When you've been with Jesus, people can tell. So write this down. Intimacy happens behind closed doors. Guys, we can fellowship with God when we're all together. We can worship together. We can sing together. We can pray together. But guys, that doesn't exempt you from the responsibility to have your own relationship with God. It has to be personal. Wouldn't it be so weird if Pastor Greg and I never hung out except when we were all together with y'all? And then we went home and he went to his room and I went to my room. And we never talked. We never had relationship. That's so weird. Guys, Christians do that all the time. You do that all the time. You come to church, you leave, you never talk to God. We help people all the time. We have places where you can meet with us, and how many times do you pray? Once a week. What if I only talked to him once a week? Would we have a good relationship? What if I only hung out with him when you guys were around? A lot of Christians do that. They think, well, I go to church. Well, that's great. But that's not your personal relationship with God. That's your church life. There's assignments and things that we do together. We're helping people. We're getting people saved. We're having classes. We're serving. We're growing. That's not your personal relationship with God. Me and Pastor Greg, being your youth pastors, if that's the only relationship we have, again, we go home. Maybe we don't even go to the same home. He goes to his room. I go to my room. Now we do go to our own bathrooms, and I recommend that. Just because you're married doesn't mean you have to share the same bathroom. I need my space. And I don't want to be smelling your poos, and you don't need to be smelling mine. You know what I mean? That keeps your marriage in a good place. I'm just telling you. Your public life, except there's a time we had other people staying with us. We're trying to help them. And it's like, this is not the will of God for us. Your public life will reveal your private life intimacies. Guys, you can tell what people are doing behind closed doors by how they act in public. It's just obvious. Like when you have no joy and you're just all emo, well, I know what's going on behind closed doors. You're obviously not fellowshipping with God because he's going to cause you to be confident. And not, guys, there's always, I heard somebody say this and I just like, it makes me laugh every time I think about it. But like, if all of us sat down and just thought about the saddest things in our life, don't you think we'd all be depressed and be ready to just like walk in front of traffic? I mean, I'm not making light of that. I'm not making light of suicide. That's a real thing. But I'm just saying, like, we've all had really horrible things happen to us. Things in our family, things that were just like, did not meet our expectations. So if we all just sat around and thought about that stuff, any of us could have any number of reasons to be like, let's end it all. So you can tell how a person, like sometimes when I come in here and I'm preaching and you can't focus and you're like zoned out, I know that there's a potential for like media overload. Because you can't keep your own self engaged because you're so used to being able to just check out, right? So you can tell what somebody's doing behind closed doors by how they're acting publicly. Jesus said the same thing about religious people. Write down this reference. I'm not going to read it. In Matthew 23, 25 through 27, Jesus basically called them hypocrites. We've all heard that word. Well, they're just hypocrites. And really, hypocrites has been a big reason why people stay away from church, which that isn't going to be your excuse, right? I remember when my dad was growing up and he told my grandpa, I don't want to go to church. There's nothing there but a bunch of hypocrites. And my grandpa just told my dad, really, you're going to let some hypocrites come between you and Jesus? Like, that's no excuse. But guys, don't you want to not even be that excuse? Like, you have to think about that. Now, those of you that are new tonight, you have an opportunity to grow and to learn about relationship with God. That's why you're here. But those of you that this is your church home, why should people want to come here if they don't see any life or any power in your life? Right? If you're only going through the motions, because see, that's what religious people do. Jesus said, you clean up and dress up nice on the outside, but on the inside, you're still full of hate, of perversion, of extortion, of greed, of all of these things that compete with the love of God. Like, we can't just clean up and show up. We have to actually live this. And I can't get into your heart. I can't fight your secrets for you. Only the Father can do that. So if you don't leave here and take the tools that you're given and apply them to your life, guys, you're going to end up being the person that you are behind closed doors. So without being crass, like if you're a pervert behind closed doors, that's going to eventually show up. Y'all, and listen, I've been in youth ministry a long time. Longer than we want to admit. Okay? And so I've had some professional Christian teenagers come into this room. The other building, all the churches we've had, all the tents we've had, they've been there. They sat in the seat. They did the deal with the Bible, with the notebook, the whole thing. They cleaned up the outside. But behind closed doors, they didn't deal with, I'm stuck with the man in the mirror. They didn't. And before long, who they were behind closed doors was like so public, y'all. I'm like, me and PG are like, no, what? Like so public, like you're nauseous. Like you don't eat for a week nauseous. And I eat. Okay, I'm not like that. You know what I mean? I'll eat tomorrow. No, I'm gonna eat today. A couple times today. Unless we're fasting. Do you know what I mean? So it wasn't like that. Some girls are like, oh, I'm going to eat on Sunday. What? It's Wednesday. Like, please eat something. You know what I mean? I've had friends like that. Guy friends like that. I had more guy friends that had eating disorders than girlfriends. It's like you always knew. They're, what's it called, binge and purge? You know, they eat all this food and then they go to the bathroom for a long time and they're not going number 2. They're barfing. It's really awkward. You know, you're at the Pizza Hut with your friends and all of a sudden it's like, you know, he's not on his phone. We didn't have phones. So you can't say his mom called. You can't cover for him. It's like, he has an eating disorder. Sorry. He'll be back. You know what I mean? But the thing about it is, like, just so perverted that you can't eat for like a week. And you're like, wow, what? Because you were here and you were like doing the thing. You cleaned it up so good on the outside. But behind closed doors always becomes public. Right? So public. Numbers 32:23 says, be sure your sin will find you out. There is nothing hidden that will not be made manifest. Right? So it's better just to get it out before you're found out. Because there's no humility in being found out. Okay? So maturity happens behind closed doors. I want to give you one more statement, and then I want to show you this movie clip that I think will help you. You know, in choir and in vocal warm-ups, Pastor Greg and I still sing. We do these vocal warm-ups. You know, it's so funny. Like, literally nothing gets on my dad's nerves more than when I start doing vocal warm-ups. And it makes my dog, like, whimper. And so let me see, which one really makes her whimper? Oh, that one, like the siren. Like, she gets so weird. But my favorite one to do with my dad is, he's like, listen, I would rather you not sing. Like, just don't sing. Like, don't sing at this church if you have to do that. And I just like do it in his ear, like just to bug him, like before church. But one of the things that this particular vocal coach says is proper preparation prevents poor performance. Proper preparation. It's not on the screen because it's from Cooper Beatty. What's his name? It's not Cooper Beatty. That was our teacher at Rhema, Chris Beatty. Chris Beatty, y'all. Proper preparation prevents poor performance. The reality is, when you're struggling, I always fall for temptation. I always feel depressed. I keep vaping. I keep getting high. I keep getting kicked out of school. I keep getting suspended. You know, my first question is, do you spend time with God every day? I keep lying. I keep hiding stuff. It's like I find new ways to text on my phone. And hiding. Y'all, when I was in school, this is so wild because we didn't have that. And if you walk out of here and think I'm like 65, don't ever come back. Find another church. There's a lot of them. I'm not that old, but we didn't have texting. And so me and a friend, we used a graphing calculator. So don't talk to me about hiding the messages, okay? Because no one's looking. It was a friend. Can we still be friends? No. Anyway, so I get it. But like my question to you is, do you have a for real quiet time? And you might be like, what is a quiet time? That sounds like time out. Next week, y'all. Next week. We can't do all of this at the same service. Next week, right? Because when you spend time with him, you will begin to be changed and look like him. But if you're not being for real with that time, if you're not practicing behind closed doors, see, your quiet time is your practice. There was an incredible movie based on a true story about Vince Napoli, he literally walked on for the Philadelphia Eagles as like a 30-year-old. And I know that seems so ancient to y'all. Well, I'm not celebrating any more birthdays starting now. I'm not. I just decided. November 8th, skip over it. It's not my birthday. It's not my birthday. I'm just done. I'm done. I know, Forever 21. Okay, so he walked on as a 30-year-old, and everybody's hating on him, you know, like, because they're all professional, they're all younger, you know, but he started practicing aggressively, and guess what happened? When he hit the field, he produced. See, if you'll practice, you'll produce. and your quiet time is your practice. What you do with God behind closed doors. So take a look at this. Let's just get some masculine football vibes in here, y'all. If your team didn't win this year, this will carry you over till next year. Go ahead and roll that, guys.
And the kick is away. It is taken near the goal line. Things off. Vince Papale putting the Giants back inside their own 15.
Guys, you want that moment. You want the moment where you can look up in the grandstands, y'all, where it really matters, and not giving people deuces as you get fixing to go behind bars for your sentence. Do you know what I'm saying? Or when you're off to like rehab. Deuce it. You know what I'm saying? Like you want to be able to look up in the grandstands and it be, okay, I did what was necessary behind closed doors. And now my life is, because see, you can't be consistent publicly. That just turns into a performance. And before long, it's going to unravel, right? So I want you to just think about it. And if you're new to a personal time with God every single day, guys, I want you to write down this verse, Romans 10:17, and then we're going to pray. It says that faith comes by hearing and hearing by the word of God. We have a live broadcast every single day, Monday through Friday, on our Choose Life Youth YouTube channel, which is why I wanted you to download it. It's at 7:30 in the morning. You have to be up anyway, and nobody's happy about it. Listen to just start there. Just make the commitment that whether I feel like it or not, I'm going to turn that on. I'm going to turn that on, and I'm going to hear the word of God. Now, it's going to build from there, and we're going to talk about it next week. Like, how do I have a relationship with God behind closed doors? It's weird. I don't know what to do. We're going to teach you what to do. But between now and next Wednesday, that's where you start. Every single day, Monday through Friday, you just sign on, listen to that message, because you're going to start hearing the word of God. The word will do the work for itself if you will do your part. Bow your head and close your eyes.